Florida Live starts now.
Good afternoon to you. It is 2 o'clock on Monday, June 30th, 2025, and this is Florida Live. Thank you for joining us wherever you are streaming, whether it be Fox Local on our free Fox Local app or on YouTube. And thank you so much for joining us today. Manny Martinez in this week for Garrett Weimer. He is enjoying some much-needed time off, some much-deserved time off, and so I will be in from today all the way until Thursday. So we'll hang in there. We'll do this together. We're all learning here as Garrett makes it look so easy. And we have a busy hour here on Florida Live here. We're going to start off, though, however, with Governor DeSantis. He has two of our big stories here in our hour. The first being the announcement that President Trump is going to be coming to Florida tomorrow because he is going to join the governor as well as Homeland Security's Kristi Noem in the Everglades. They are going to be taking a look at Alligator Alcatraz, the facility that has garnered a lot of attention. It is an immigration detention center that the goal is to house up to 5,000 detainees here, and the governor's goal was to open up tomorrow. And so as I'll cue up some of the video here of what the governor said earlier today, we'll listen into his comments. And the president will be here tomorrow in Florida to tour the facility. And so the governor basically talks about the excitement of opening up this new facility.
The one thing that we have seen over the initial months of the Trump administration is when we'd ask DHS, what can we do? They're just like, we just need detention space. Because, if you bring an illegal in, there is, the media says there is a process they go through, right, to determine whether you're in the country illegally. Some people may have a notice to appear in 7 days and from an immigration judge. Some people may already have an order of these. So there's stuff that go into it. And so, but that was the one thing. I've talked to Tom Homan about it. I've talked to a lot of these folks about it. And so we had a plan that we put out and told them, hey, we can execute this. I think we probably put it out about a month or so ago through the Division of Emergency Management under our director, Kevin Guthrie, where we would be able to stand up some makeshift detention space very quickly around the state of Florida. And we were talking about other different possibilities. So DHS was very supportive. So, what we're doing is like the state is doing it. The feds are kind of overseeing and then reimbursing us for the cost. But, we're looking at, okay, where could you do it that's not going to disturb the community, not going to create problems? And, there just happens to be this Dade Collier Airport that's out there kind of in the middle of the Everglade area. And it's not defunct. People say there are training flights that go in there, but it's a massive runway. And, there's not a lot of buildings out there, but there's a lot of concrete. And so these guys set up this whole thing within a matter of days. And so when the president comes tomorrow, he's going to be able to see, you're going to be able to do. What'll happen is you bring people in there. They ain't going anywhere once they're there unless you want them to go somewhere, because good luck getting the civilization. So the security is amazing. But natural and otherwise. But what it can be, I think, is an effective way to increase the number of removals and deportations, which ultimately, if you don't do that, you're going to continue to have this problem of illegal immigration. So you'll be able to bring people in, they'll get processed, they have an order of removal, then they can be queued, and the federal government can fly right on the runway, right there. You literally drive them 2,000 feet, put them on a plane, and then they're gone. It's very logistically simple, but what we're also going to do is, this idea of immigration judge, these are not Article 3 judges. They're not federal judges like we think of. These are executive branch employees who are called immigration judges. So you can deputize different employees to do that. So we've offered some of our National Guardsmen to be able to serve as immigration judges. So what you could have is, okay, someone's a criminal alien, they obviously fast track. Someone has an order of deportation, okay, fast track. Someone may have just gotten picked up. They come, they can get like a notice to appear. Biden would tell you to come in 2 years. Under the Trump administration, it's usually within, 14 to 30 days. But we can have our National Guard acting as immigration judges right on site. So you go, maybe you have a day or two, whatever, and then a decision's made. And then that's it. So this is potentially be a force multiplier as this goes. And so, I did speak with the president this weekend. He's very excited about doing it. But I think what he wants to see is, Florida should not be the only one in this fight, right? I mean, we literally are doing what the voters who elected all of us have been demanding for many, many years. And immigration was maybe the number one issue, maybe inflation, but certainly no worse than the second most important issue in the 2024 presidential election. So we've got to do it. And we're also looking at Camp Blanding up in Northeast Florida, which has a runway. And again, similar thing, secure, not going to interrupt the community, be able to fly people out. The feds will do it. I mean, we flew to Martha's Vineyard, right? I mean, we could probably fly there, but I think they want to be in charge of that because there's diplomatic niceties that go on, and I get it. So, but I do think that if you increase the amount of space for processing and then to be able to get them ripe to then be able to return to their home country by the thousands, that's going to really make a difference. And in Florida, we estimate we've got 50,000 illegal aliens in Florida who have already been ordered to be removed by an immigration judge. So you talk about, they've gone through this process, they have an order to remove, and they're just still here. And so that's low-hanging fruit. But we were in a situation where there's such a limited space that ICE has. Do you want all of our jails to be overflowing with illegals, or would you rather have that done in a separate mission? Because, unfortunately, we've got U.S. citizens committing crimes, and they are going to need to be held accountable. So it puts pressure it takes pressure off of our local institutions in a way that I think will be very, very efficient. So it should be, I think people are impressed. I think a lot of people didn't even know there was an airport there. I mean, but there is there. I mean, it's a good facility. Things are being done in, I think, a very efficient fashion. And I was really, honestly, I was impressed, but I know dealing with the hurricane response and all the other, monoclonal antibodies during COVID, we would set up monoclonal antibody clinics on 24-hour notice. Hey, we need one in Jacksonville. 24 hours later, it's up. That's this emergency response apparatus that we have. So I think it'll be interesting to see. And I believe by tomorrow, they will be open. So DHS approved us doing this last week. And I think by tomorrow, it'll be ready for business.
So that was Governor DeSantis in Wildwood in Sumter County this morning. He was there to talk about the state budget, and the first couple of questions that he got from reporters that he took from them were about Alligator Alcatraz. You heard him finish off there at the end about the excitement that he is feeling for tomorrow. And he also mentioned in that about 6-minute clip that we had that the state is looking at another facility in Northeast Florida, one that is also near a runway. And so the governor also said that he estimates that there are 50,000 undocumented immigrants in Florida who have already received orders from judges to leave the United States and go back to their countries, and that they have not done so. But this Alligator Alcatraz has not been without controversy. In fact, it is the subject of a lawsuit, and for that part of the story, we will pick it up with Fox's Madison Scarpino.
Alligator Alcatraz is set to start housing illegal immigrants as soon as Tuesday, but the groups who filed this new lawsuit say that officials did not look into the environmental aspects, and they're trying to pause construction while they still can. Protesters lining the highways Saturday. They were right by the new detention center, waving signs and chanting just days before the planned opening.
To give them this is just unacceptable. Our demands are to leave the Everglades, to leave this land as it be.
It's not good for the water, it's not good for the wildlife and the habitats. Why is it here?
But officials say it's not going to impact the environment. DHS Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin told Fox Digital the lawsuit is, quote, lazy, saying the land has already been developed for a decade. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis gave Fox an exclusive look at the migrant detention center. It will be a hub for deportations that will also house detainees and process their legal cases. It's on a 30-mile property. It's a former training base and already has an airstrip for deportations. Governor DeSantis says Alligator Alcatraz is going to be extremely secure.
There will be some very dangerous criminal aliens that get processed through here. But if for some reason someone would be able to get out, where are you going to go? You going to dodge alligators for 50 miles to try to get to? No, it's not going to happen. So this is basically as secure as it gets.
The facility will cost around $450 million a year, and it's FEMA who will be reimbursing Florida for those funds. I'm Madison Scarpino, Fox News.
And so the plan for Alligator Alcatraz, it has been on a little bit of a fast track since it was announced a little more than a week ago by Attorney General James Othmeyer. And so again, the president will visit Florida tomorrow with DHS Secretary Kristi Noem, and then also of note worth adding that Republican gubernatorial hopeful here in Florida, Byron Donalds, will also be part of that opening. So we will be right back with some more Florida Live here. We are getting off to a start on a Monday afternoon. Here is some of what we have on tap. We are looking forward to our Tampa connection in just a little bit, and then we'll talk about the state budget that Governor DeSantis was in Wildwood for, and then we'll talk a little sports, the Orlando Magic, with some options, declining some player options as they look toward free agency. Stick with us. We will be right back with some more Florida Live in just a moment. Welcome back to Florida Live on this Monday afternoon. Manny Martinez here with you. We are chugging along, and now it's time to get our Tampa connection, and for that we'll go to Nancy Gay, who is with us this afternoon. And Nancy, good afternoon to you. How are you?
Good afternoon. I'm doing well today. How are you?
I'd say the same. It's a little bit of a learning experience, but it's going well so far. And you have a story out of Hernando County with a skimming operation that's been busted.
Yes, that's right. They're calling this a very sophisticated skimming operation that has been busted in Hernando County. Now, this investigation actually began when the U.S. Customs and Border Protection intercepted a bunch of illegal overlay skimming devices that were being sent to Junior Juan Camacho in Spring Hill. Now, special agents with the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services Office of Agriculture Law Enforcement, that's known as OALE, immediately began looking into suspected violations involving these skimming devices and re-encoders that were being used to steal sensitive financial data. Now, on June 25th, that was last Wednesday, OALE, along with Homeland Security Investigations and the Hernando County Sheriff's Office, executed a search warrant at Camacho's home. He was taken into custody along with two of his associates. Now, agents say they uncovered a sophisticated fraud operation and they seized 354 suspected counterfeit magnetic strip payment cards, 17 illegal skimming devices, more than 150 digital storage devices, additional electronic components that are being used for skimming schemes, as well as nearly $50,000 in cash. Now, we were also told that a 2022 Ford F-350 operated by one of Camacho's associates named Hernandez Plasencia was impounded after agents said they discovered two concealed illegal fuel tanks that were being suspected of being used to steal diesel fuel. Now, during that same operation, agents also recovered 17 gaffs, which are commonly associated with animal fighting. The trio now face multiple felony charges, including trafficking in counterfeit goods, possession of skimming devices, and possession of equipment used for animal fighting. Manny.
Quite a long list of charges there, Nancy. And someone else will be facing charges here, too, in this second story.
Yes, this was definitely a bizarre story that happened Saturday afternoon along the off-ramp on I-75 going off to Morris Bridge Road. That's where troopers say 20-year-old Armani Bellamy is accused of actually running over a man in a stolen pickup truck after she crashed into the victim's vehicle. Now, Armani was actually detained at the scene by somebody who watched the entire events unfold. And this happened, as I mentioned, around 2:30 on Saturday afternoon on the exit ramp from I-75 to Morris Bridge Road. A witness told troopers that he was driving southbound on the exit ramp when he saw a man standing toward the back of a Dodge Challenger and a woman sitting in the front seat of a Ford F-250 pickup truck that had strong roofing written on it. He said that the woman reversed the truck rapidly toward the Dodge Challenger and stopped just before hitting it. Then he said the man walked from the back of the Dodge to the front of the vehicle, kind of near the pickup truck where the woman was driving. The witness said that as this man approached the woman, she actually pulled forward and then reversed again closer to that Dodge. Now, after pulling forward and reversing 4 times, the witness said that the woman got a running start by pulling up further than she had before and backed into the Dodge. She did crash into the Dodge at that point in time. Now, after the crash, the witness said that she drove up an embankment, circled around, and drove toward the man who was standing by his vehicle. Now, the witness said that she did crash into the Dodge again at this point in time, and then she actually began chasing the victim who was running away on foot. Now, keep in mind, she was still in the pickup truck as she is chasing him. The man ran up the embankment with the woman in the truck following close behind, and that's when this witness says he lost sight of what was going on. So the witness told troopers that that's when he got out of his vehicle, walked up the embankment, and he actually saw the victim in distress, partially pinned underneath that pickup truck. The witness said that a bystander did get out and was trying to help the victim, and that Bellamy at this point in time got out of the pickup truck and she was actually trying to get a ride to leave the scene. So that's when this witness ended up detaining her until law enforcement officers arrived. We are told that the victim was taken to Tampa General Hospital with severe injuries. Armani has been charged with attempted murder. We were told that she did suffer some type of an injury during this incident, and she was taken to a different area hospital. She was not brought to the same hospital that the victim was taken to. At this point, it's unclear if she has been released from that hospital and actually booked. I did check the Hillsborough County inmate site shortly before we went on here, and she did not have a mugshot or charges listed on that website just yet, so we do not have a mugshot for her. And again, at this point in time, Manny, it is unclear what led up to these events. Why these two were initially standing outside of their vehicles on this off-ramp is also unclear if they knew each other.
Yeah, it's one of the wildest stories. I mean, just as you were going over the back and forth of the story, there's also a back and forth of the car.
Yes.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. This witness said that she sped up and then reversed back at least 4 times before actually hitting the Dodge, and then she hit the Dodge twice and then ended up chasing this man. Again, he was running on foot while she was chasing him in that pickup truck. So this is definitely a very unusual story, and it'll be interesting to know what the details are, what happened, what led up to these events, how she got that truck, because she was charged with grand theft. The truck was stolen, so there's a lot of questions in this case as well.
All right, we'll see if we get some answers. Third story that you have for us is out of Clearwater, and the headline is Clearwater home intruder shot and killed. Tell us about that.
Yes, this is an update to a story that we had on Saturday. Now, Clearwater police say a man who was found shot to death in an apartment at the Granada Apartments of Clearwater was actually an armed home intruder, and they say that this home intruder was killed by the person who lived in that apartment. Now, police say Rodolfo Batista Espinoza forced his way into an apartment around 5:30 in the morning on Saturday and demanded money. That's when police say the resident grabbed a gun, shot, and killed him. Now, police have not said if Espinoza knew the people who lived inside of that apartment or if this was completely random. Manny?
I turned my mic off there by mistake. Thank you, Nancy. I appreciate it, and hopefully we'll see you tomorrow and see if we can get some positive stories as well. Lots of wild things certainly happening in Florida. We know that. Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you.
All right. When we come back, we are going to have some more Florida Live for you. We are going to be running through the Orlando Magic, making some moves before free agency, trying to open up some cap space. Then we're also going to be talking about the state budget that the governor signed this morning in Wildwood and Sumter County. It takes effect at midnight tonight. We'll go over some of what's in it. Stay with us here with Florida Live. We'll be back in just 2 minutes. Welcome back into Florida Live on this Monday afternoon. Manny Martinez here with you as Garrett Weimer enjoys the week off. We are going to be shifting gears now and talk a little sports, a little NBA basketball. The Orlando Magic making a couple of decisions last night to free up perhaps some cap space as they head into free agency. So as we do that, why don't we bring in our guest to talk about it, and that is let's see if, as I'm having trouble clicking on here, that is Brandon Kravitz, host of In the Zone on 96.9 The Game. And Brandon, you also do Orlando Magic pre and post. Now, the two deals here are declining options on Mo Wagner as well as another declined option on Caleb Houston. What is the headline with those?
Those are two guys that have helped the Magic get to where they are over the last couple of years. Mo Wagner, of course, the older brother of one of their star players, and Franz Wagner. Caleb Houston is somebody that has actually helped to buoy what has been the worst three-point shooting team in the NBA. He's been pretty efficient during his time in Orlando, but just doesn't offer much else. And I still think it's possible that both of these guys are brought back. You mentioned cap flexibility. I think that's exactly why the options were declined on both of these players. It was to give the Magic a chance as the free agency window opens at 6 p.m. tonight. It'll give them a chance to negotiate with some players that they otherwise would not have been able to. It gives those two individuals a chance to test the market, and maybe they're offered more than what the Magic would be willing to give them. But if both sides end up with not anything better than their current situation, I think we're probably looking at a marriage once again between those two players, because I know the Magic are fond of both of them.
And it's something that Mo Wagner knows well because he was in this situation last year.
Yeah, and he's coming off of an injury as well. This is a guy that tore his ACL in the middle of last season, and he was having a career year during that stretch when that went down. The team supported him all the way throughout. His brother's on the squad. I don't think this is a situation that Mo Wagner necessarily wants to leave. And it's certainly not somebody that the Magic want to lose. You know, I don't think it's ever going to show up in the box score just how valuable Mo Wagner actually is to this team. He is an energy provider for this group when they're in the middle of the season going through those lulls where it's just kind of hard to get the juice up. Mo Wagner is the guy that is yelling and clapping in everybody's face and kind of getting the team back into it. The crowd loves him at the Kia Center. And I don't think that that's the kind of guy you want to lose, but a smart, shrewd move by the Magic to at least let him go for now and then see what they can do as far as, because they could still use that money to upgrade in terms of bench piece, another starting or not a starting center, but a backup center for Wendell Carter Jr. Those are all still options. They would not have been options if the team had kept those two on the roster. So this is all about flexibility, not necessarily about moving off of those two players.
Yeah, it seems you're pretty confident on both of them coming back. What would you say if you had to give a percentage?
I think I would have to split it up. I think for Mo Wagner, my percentage would be about 70% he comes back. For Caleb Houston, I think it's closer to, I would say 45% that he returns. I think both still, pretty high on the scale in terms of these being guys that I think the Magic want back, but they have to get better at three-point shooting. And if it takes a couple extra $1 million in order to do that during this free agency period, that's just something that they have to do. And unfortunately, you can only roster about 15 players in the NBA. So this is where tough decisions come. And especially after a draft where you just added two new players in Jace Richardson and Noah Penda. So I'll go 70% for Mo, 45% for Caleb Houston.
And from what I read, it's 10 of those 15 spots that are locked up right now. And you mentioned the Magic needs some three-point shooting. Who are you going after?
So I am not all that impressed with the free agency list this year. However, this could play into Orlando's hands because the Magic don't have a lot of money to spend as it is right now. And this isn't exactly a sexy list of names. If you wanted to go on the high end, Nickeil Alexander-Walker is the guy that you could look at. He really helped the Minnesota Timberwolves in terms of their three-point shooting in the playoffs. Luke Kennard is another name to look at. Shoots 43% from long range. Duncan Robinson just became available from the Miami Heat. I don't have a good read on what exactly he's going to go for out in the open market, but he's definitely somebody the Magic should kick the tires on. He shot 39% last season and has shot exactly that during his NBA career. So very consistent three-point shooter. A point guard that has been tied to the Magic, I think, every year for the last 3 years is a guy by the name of Tyus Jones. He's bounced around the league. He's played for Memphis. He most recently played for the Washington Wizards. He shot 41% over the course of his career from three-point range for last season and 38% over the course of his career. That is really what it's all about. If you're wondering who the Magic should go after, I think it comes down to ideally a guard because you could use some depth at that position, but more than anything else, you need three-point shooting because it's great that this team traded for Desmond Bane, who is one of the better three-point shooters in the NBA. It's great that the team went and drafted Jace Richardson. He's still young. Don't know how many minutes he is going to get. And usually that three-point shot is not one of the first things to come around for young NBA players. They have to add somebody else that can help with the shooting for this basketball team. Otherwise, I just don't think they're going to be able to take the step that we all anticipate them being able to make.
And we know just how important it is to be a good three-point shooting ball club these days.
Oh, I mean, it's everything. You know, you're simply not going to make it to the finish line in the NBA if you can't shoot the three. We've seen it with the two teams that made it to the finals. Oklahoma City, they've got guys all across their roster that they can spray the ball out to. Guys coming off the bench that are shooting 35 to 40% from three-point range, which is really that sweet spot number. And it doesn't have to be your best player. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is not the most proficient three-point shooter. He's not a high-volume guy from that range, but he can find those open shooters. And I think more than anything else, and Indiana embodied this as well as anybody in the league, every player that's on the floor has to be at least a threat to shoot the three, because that's just the way the game is played in today's NBA. And the Magic have just made life too easy on defenses in not stretching them out. If you can't get opposing defenders out towards the three-point line to guard potential shooters, it creates sort of a log jam in the middle of the court where Paolo and Franz want to operate. So not only is it important for every NBA team to shoot the three ball well, just because of the math behind it, but it's especially important when you have two players, your two best players in Franz and Paolo, that want to score in the paint. If the paint is packed, you're not going to be able to score in that area. So they've got to find a way to stretch the floor, and it's the easiest way to do it. This is not, it's not rocket science, but it certainly sounds a lot easier than it is in real life in order to obtain these players.
Brandon, just a couple of days ago, I got around to finally watching the ESPN 30 for 30, this Magic moment. I hadn't done it yet, and it was really good, talking about the Shaq and Penny Hardaway days and the glory years of the early 90s, mid-90s that ultimately went to a finals run. But my main takeaway from watching that was the importance of timing and how that plays into a basketball team and the team that you put together. And the Magic, right now, they are thinking their time is now, if not soon, especially when you see that the Celtics have basically blown it up and Indiana might be your biggest threat.
Yeah, exactly. And I think they also have shown you that they agree, not only in the moves that they've made in the big trade to bring in Desmond Bane and to clearly get better with that fourth piece of the puzzle. You now have kind of your own version of a big four with Franz, Paolo, Jalen Suggs, and Desmond Bane. And no disrespect to Wendell Carter Jr., but that's your core four right there. They've also rebranded. And I think that this organization has shown you they are ready to turn the page to that next era, not only in the feel of the basketball team, but in the presentation of it. You'll have a new PA announcer. Paul Porter has been the longtime in-arena voice of this basketball team. They're turning the page there as well. So it's like in every area that you look, the Magic want new. They want to really surge into this next generation that is built behind Paolo and Franz, most specifically. And I think there's absolute belief, with or without the injuries that are in the Eastern Conference, because the Magic still found a way to win 41 games last year when their core three at the time, Paolo, Franz, and Jalen, only played a combined 95 minutes together. So I think there was an expectation that even if they didn't add anybody, they were going to get significantly better. Now you add a player in Desmond Bane that should make you significantly even more improved than what the expectation already was. And now on top of that, you have the injuries that are piling up, Tyrese Halliburton, Jason Tatum in the Eastern Conference. And that window went from opening to wide open.
All right, Brandon Kravitz, host of In the Game on 96.9, or In the Zone, excuse me, on 96.9 The Game. Brandon, thank you so much for your time. 70% you say Mo Wagner returns, 45% was your number for Caleb Houston. We'll see how it plays out over the next week. Thank you.
All right, see you, Manny.
Thank you. We'll see you next time. All right, coming up next on Florida Live, we will go over some of the state budget that the governor signed into action today, and it is something that takes effect tonight at midnight. We'll be right back with more Florida Live after this. Welcome back to Florida Live. It is 2:37. Thank you for streaming along here with us. If you're watching us, whether it be on your Fox local app or on YouTube, we thank you for being here with us to start this Monday afternoon. So moving on now to DeSantis, the governor here in Florida, signing the state budget. It came down to the wire today, the last possible day he could have done it. It takes effect July 1. That's tomorrow, in just a few hours, at midnight tonight. Listen, it's a $115 billion budget. That's actually $3 billion less than the current budget that expires in just a few hours. And the governor did make about $500 million worth, maybe even a little more, in terms of line item vetoes. That is a power that he does have under the state constitution. There are some governors in the country that do not have the power of the line item veto. So he made about $600 million of those cuts, close to it, to the budget. And so the budget, some of the highlights, it eliminates more than 1,000 state jobs that are currently vacant. State employees, they will get a 2% raise. Teachers, law enforcement officers, and judges will get pay bumps as well. Now, the reason we're all the way here to June 30th, and it's just now that the governor is signing this budget, is because he didn't get it from the state legislature until a couple of weeks ago, which was almost a month and a half after he was supposed to have gotten it at the end of the legislative session at the beginning of May. Now, this budget also does include some back-to-school and hurricane prep tax holidays. Those are some mainstays that we here in Florida have gotten used to. That's enough of me talking about the budget. Why don't we hear from the man who put pen to paper this morning in Wildwood? Here is Governor DeSantis talking about the 25-26 fiscal year budget.
For this year, $2 billion. I think that's the second most Florida's ever done in tax relief in a given year. We did $2.5 billion a couple years ago. I think we did almost $2 billion in current year. One of the things we've done that the legislature's done, which I think was really smart, we do these back-to-school tax holidays. We do disaster prep tax holidays. And it's like they'll do, we're going to enact it this year and then this, and it's not permanently in law. And one of the things that happened was they didn't do the budget at the end of the regular session in May. It drug out another 45 days. Well, guess what? We normally have disaster preparedness starts when hurricane season, right before hurricane season starts in June. So they didn't have this done, so people didn't get to be able to get that. So both back to school and disaster prep are now permanent tax holidays in Florida. And so disaster prep, those items that have already been earmarked, you can buy them whenever you want. We're not going to limit it to certain dates. And then back to school, I think it's the entire month of August now is eligible for back to school. So all those back to school supplies, zero tax in the month of August. And that's a part of permanent Florida law now. So families don't have to worry about it. You don't have to worry about you be able to get those savings. Those savings are going to be there. The legislature has also done something that I've been asking for many years, and that's eliminating a tax that only Florida has of all 50 states, and that's taxing business rent. It's not good for our economy. It's not good for business growth. And so that tax is being sunsetted. And again, how many times do you hear of governments eliminating a tax? Like normally these taxes grow. So thanks for doing that. I think that that's well intended. And then thank you also for heeding my call to deliver a Second Amendment tax holiday. And so firearms, ammunition, accoutrement, as well as other outdoor items like fishing and bow hunting and things are going to be tax-free from September 8th until December 31st of this year. So you're going to be able to do very well. We've also been able to continue building on our success on teacher salary increases. This budget increases our pot for teacher pay increases by over $100 million, so it's close to $1.4 billion. We did $1.25 billion last year, and we got to continue to do more. But what we did, and I think we started this probably 4 or 5 years ago, you know, people say, like, oh, we need more money for education. Well, then what happens is the state sends money to these school districts, and a lot of it gets eaten up by bureaucracy. And so the money it wasn't going to the classroom, like they weren't putting an emphasis on teacher pay. And so the money that we have a special item in the budget. The school districts can only use this $1.38 billion. They can only use it to increase teacher salaries. They can't use it for anything else. Our Florida students, our Florida residents, have the same tuition today than they did the day I took office. Not 1 cent of increase on tuition in our universities. And not only that, we do have an ability, I know because the villages, this may be something that is of interest, where grandparents can qualify for in-state tuition for their grandkids, even if the grandkids went to school out of state. Now, you got to be a high performer and everything, but reality is that's something that's very meaningful. So the average tuition, if you're a Florida resident, for our universities is about $6,300 per year. Now, that is by far the lowest of any place in the United States of America, and our standards have gone up so much. You know, it used to be, you go to high school in Florida, you know, if you were a pretty good student, you get into wherever you wanted pretty much. Now, not so much. These are much more competitive. And so if you're good enough to get into some of these schools like UF and FSU, chances are you're qualifying for Bright Future scholarships, which is full tuition or 75% tuition depending on your marks. And so you really, even if you don't get Bright Futures, but especially if you get it, no debt. There's no need for you to go into debt to get a 4-year degree in the state of Florida. That's helping people. That's where people are going to be able to do well with themselves, not with a $100,000 millstone around their neck. I mentioned what we've done with environmental restoration, Everglades, water quality. At the beginning of my first term as governor, I said this needs to be a priority, that I'm calling for over that 4-year period, $2.5 billion in funding for those projects. And those projects there's a lot in Southern Florida, but they're really all over the state. And that's $1 billion more than had been done the previous 4. We not only did 2.5, we did 3.3 billion over those first 4 years. So then this term I said, you know what? We're going to do even better. We're going to do 3.5 billion over the next 4 years. When I sign this budget in, this will include an additional $1.4 billion for Everglades restoration, water quality improvements around the state of Florida. That means already we far surpassed my $3.5 billion target. We're already at $4.6 billion, and we ain't done yet. So that's going to be very meaningful for a lot of people. We also mentioned the roads and infrastructure. This budget fully funds our Florida Department of Transportation work program. It fully funds the state of Florida's Moving Florida Forward initiative. So those accelerated projects will continue, and I think that's something that'll be meaningful for a lot of people. Finally, this budget heeds the call to support law enforcement throughout the state. So we launched a program a few years ago, you know, kind of in response to what was happening around the country with defund police and the attacks on law enforcement. We obviously don't do that in Florida. In fact, we signed legislation that prevents local governments from defunding police in the state of Florida. And we've done a lot of stuff, anti-riot legislation. You know, the media gets really upset because, you know, we clarified in law, you know, if you're at like a stop sign and an unruly mob comes and threatens you, you have the right to flee for your safety. Are you kidding me? And we've done a lot to have tough penalties against people who launch attacks on law enforcement, especially in those situations where, you know, you're demonstrating, which people have a right to do, but you got to follow the rules. You got to follow the law. And if you breach that line, we're not going to just sit there and allow the inmates to run the asylum. That's true for the state as a whole. The Hamas people tried to take over a road down in Miami after that whole thing was really starting a year or so ago, and they lasted 13 minutes on the road before they got escorted out. And quite frankly, at our universities, you know, you have a right to express yourself. You can have views. It's not our role to police your views, and some of these views that are more sympathetic to Hamas, I think, are quite frankly abhorrent, but you do have a right to those. But we also have a right to hold you accountable for your behavior.
So it was a busy morning for Governor DeSantis in Wildwood this morning. Again, they're talking about the signing of the state budget. One of the highlights that he mentioned there in the middle section of that clip that I pointed out or want to point out is that there isn't any tuition increase at Florida universities. The governor was touting the fact that the tuition has not gone up since he took office years ago. And he also mentioned that it adds up to about $6,300 a year and some for tuition, the cheapest, he says, anywhere in the country, and that it has also led, because it is so competitive, to some more competitive schools. All right, so it is 12 minutes to 3 o'clock here on this Monday afternoon. Why don't we go ahead and take a look over at our camera that is looking at Port Canaveral. You'll see that the sun is shining. That is not necessarily the case around Florida. As you know what, why don't we go ahead and go up the coast and take a look at, as I pull up here and click these buttons, I'll go into our system here so we can look at one more live picture before we head to break, because I want to show you what I'm looking at in here. So let's see if I can get to it. We'll go to weather cams and we'll go to the Hard Rock camera in Daytona Beach, and look at that. It is storming out there. It is Florida summer. Thank you for staying with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Florida Live on this Monday, starting off your week with us. Thank you for joining us here this afternoon. Garrett has the week off. Manny Martinez. I will do my best to try and make Garrett proud pushing these buttons, and he does a good job of it and makes it look easy. And it certainly is at times a struggle to talk and push some buttons, but listen, I want to show you a look at what I-4 is like here. This is over our studios in Lake Mary. But just down the road, there is an iconic building that you have likely seen if you're driving up through our area in Altamont Springs, and that is called the Majesty Building. It has another nickname. I will spare it of mentioning that name, but it maybe perhaps hasn't been so kind to its image. But it's been on the side of the road for more than 20 years now. It's not done yet. The owners are still working on it. The owners are actually from the area, and they may finally open here soon with their first tenant, that being a Christian broadcast station. The super channel WACX plans to move into the building sometime this year. And our Fox 35 Matt Trezza spoke with the CEO. Now, the plan was to build this without taking on any debt. That's why it's taken so long.
Well, there's always progress. You know, we pay as we go, and we're getting ready to move into the ground floor, which is over 22,000 square feet. The landscaping will start in about 2 weeks. Obviously, that has to be completed. And then we'll do whatever the city says we have to do. But they've been working with us, and so the ground floor, it seems ideal. There's no stairs, there's no elevators, a lot of room.
Great.
So we're going to move the station in there and then see what's left to lease.
Very good. So is it going to be this station that moves over there, or who's going to be the tenant?
Well, we are a super channel. We've been here 42 years. So we're moving the station. This is just a production studio.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll move all of it into the building.
Very good. So everything that we see here, the studio, master control, all that is going to be in the first floor over there?
Oh yeah, and all the offices.
Very good. Tell me about what kind of undertaking that is. When are you going to start that? How long is that going to be to move everything in?
I don't know, the city has given us tentative approval to develop the ground floor because again, it gives us in the building and it gives us an opportunity to lease to some tenants on the ground floor.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just seemed like the natural thing, and the timing is right. We pay as we go, and we're ready to take that step.
Aside from this operation, what other tenants do you have getting ready to move in there?
Well, we can't divulge that, but we're going to move in. That's the main thing.
Mm-hmm.
Once we get in there, obviously there's a lot to do to get the first tenant in.
Mm-hmm.
Roads, everything that has to be done. We're focusing on the ground floor because it's big, and that's the best place to start.
So when you say the first tenant, are you referring to this, or is there somebody else besides this operation?
No, when we get over there, we will open up some of the footage on the in the ground floor for tenants. Yeah, we already have interested tenants in space as much as available. Yeah.
Very good. So is this only going to be taking up part of the ground floor then?
Oh yeah. This
Okay.
is it. Mm-hmm.
So there will be. Do you know roughly how many other tenants might go on the ground floor?
We got a concept that would allow. I would just say that there's room for 2 more tenants.
Okay.
Assuming city approval, it's all on the ground floor.
Mm-hmm.
You walk out the door and the garage is there, accessible, right outside the door. So the ground floor is an ideal place, and so that's what we're focusing on.
So the permit that you have filed with the city, what is that for? Is that for just this operation, or is it for this and the other tenants?
The building is the building.
Okay.
All right. So the building will be a future home of this station.
Mm-hmm.
That was the main function of it. Then we will develop as it goes and start leasing space. That creates an income to the ministry.
Mm-hmm.
And then as tenants come, we can build it out and move them in.
How exciting is this for you?
It's always been exciting because it's the Majesty Building, and something that big and tall, and it's just a faith walk, faith and works,
Mm-hmm.
always working, So I'm excited, But this is a very nice place here, and we want to get in there and start bringing tenants in and develop the building.
It was Super Channel CEO Claude Bowers talking about the excitement of moving along on the Majesty Building. Thank you for joining us here on